Okay, new year with new stuff. Things can only go up, right? Right? I sure hope so. Well, 2025 was certainly a year, and not exactly a great one. Between all the AI nonsense, plus all the controversies and other stuff I won't name, it was definitely a rough year to say the least. But I'm not here to talk about that. I want to talk about the games I got to play. And man, 2025 was absolutely stacked. Not only did the Switch 2 come out with some fantastic games to play, but other great games came out too, and I got to play a ton of games for the first time. I ended up playing 38 games last year, so I had absolutely no shortage of games to talk about. As usual, the only rule is that I had to have played and beaten the game for the first time in 2025. So let's get the good times going. Let's roll! Something new I did in 2025 is what I called my wildcard streams. I'd asked the folks in my Discord server for a multiplayer game I hadn't played before to try for the first time with them. I played the likes of Repo and Lethal Company this way, and it was interesting trying these new experiences. But one game was special. It was above. It was truly peak. This is a great example of a simple game with so much depth under the surface. Right out the gate, it seems to be little more than a mountain climbing simulator, which is a cool idea, but nothing too special. However, it's everything around that idea that makes this game what it is. First off is the stamina gauge. That green bar shows how much you can climb, and pretty much everything affects it. Hunger over time wears away at it, that damage you took when you fell cuts into it, and occasional environmental hazards also affect it. It's also lowered by whatever items you have, and this plays into the aspect of resource management. There are a ton of food items to find, whether organically around or from various luggage scattered about, and they can restore stamina and give a boost of extra stamina. There's also medicinal equipment around that can help with injuries and mobility items to help with the climb. Knowing what items to take and how to divide them up with allies if you have them is the most vital skill of this game. While only the bottom of this list, it rides the top for one of the best multiplayer games ever. Kirby is a known presence. His games are all about joyful platforming and various copy abilities that lead to so much fun throughout. However, the Pink Puff has also had a variety of spin-offs over the years. These often take ideas Kirby games are known for and put them in entirely new context for fun games in their own right. And one of those memorable spin-offs he's had is easily Kirby's Epic Yarn. I've known about this game for many years, but it took until I saw it at MagFest last year for me to finally give it a go. The first thing I gotta bring up is this game's art style. Being made entirely out of yarn, beads, and other arts and crafts materials makes it one of the most memorable and striking art styles I've ever seen in a video game. And the way it plays into everything truly elevates that. For example, in the snow area, there are giant cotton balls that act as snowballs, or how the oceans use different shades of blue fabric to sell the idea. It's stuff like this that helps this game truly stand out, and it really does play like a Kirby game. Sure, Kirby can inhale and get copy abilities, but instead he can morph his body. He becomes a car when dashing, a submarine when swimming, and there are points where he can transform into a tank or a dolphin or get a snowboard for their own levels and set pieces. This game is absolutely filled with creativity, and no two levels are alike. There were so many memorable points that I just love to see, and the bosses could also get super creative. While not a Kirby game in the purely traditional sense, I think this is one of the best games he's ever been a part of. It's truly a work of art. I got really into Castlevania last year. I got both the Advanced Collection and the Dominus Collection as gifts during the winter sale at the end of 2024, ended up playing all 6 games, and even streamed the Dominus Collection over on my Twitch. Please follow that if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, while these games all had their ups and downs, my favorite of the bunch is Clear Cut. Let's talk about Portrait of Ruin. This was the second Castlevania game released for the DS, and they absolutely nailed it. They learned how to balance gimmicks after Dawn of Sorrow was a bit heavy-handed, and the game flows like an absolute dream. Exploring the castle and killing Dracula's army of enemies feels so good. The big gameplay mechanic here is that you're not just controlling one character, but 2. You have Jonathan, who wields the classic whip and sub-weapons, and also the mage Charlotte. But using John, it's exactly what you'd expect. Meanwhile, Charlotte, she's a walking nuke, basically. Sure, she doesn't start off with much, but as you progress and gather new spells for her to use, she becomes an absolute force of destruction. What's more, the two can even team up for duo attacks to really paint the castle red with the blood of your enemies. Speaking of painting, the castle is filled with portraits, which are actually gateways to new worlds. This is a pretty clever idea, as while the castle itself is definitely smaller than previous entries, these portrait worlds more than make up for it. You find new abilities to help you traverse, attacks and spells to use, and of course bosses to absolutely destroy. Of all the Castlevania games I've played, I'd easily put this one at the top. It's the picture-perfect Metroidvania adventure. We were absolutely spoiled for racing games in 2025. I don't know why they wanted to release so many good ones in one year, but I am certainly not complaining. As for the first one on this list, let's say hello to our old friend Sonic. For how much of a speed freak the Blue Blur is, it has been a shockingly long time since he last had a racing game. To give an idea, the last original one was Team Sonic Racing back in 2019. This is a really nice return to form, and definitely has the kind of feel that Transform did. The driving controls feel super tight, and there are parts of the tracks that allow your vehicle to transform, which is awesome to see. And what's also really cool is that when one course ends, you immediately get flung into another course, so no two races are ever the same. Sure, the tracks themselves don't do any crazy changes, but there's still a ton of customization to be had. Before going into a race, you can adjust your gadget plate, which will give you a whole host of benefits. You can give yourself items at the start, bigger drift boost, something defensive, and loads more. There's so many ways to customize your gadgets to fit your playstyle and give yourself the edge you need. And you're going to need it too, because this game can absolutely test your mettle, whether you're racing alone or with other people. And speaking of which, online races are something that keeps me coming back. There are often these festival events that put everyone on teams and give everyone a bonus objective to work towards. This means that even if you're not the best racer on the track, you can still contribute and help your team win. And these events also add new characters like Joker, Pac-Man, and SpongeBob. Sure, why not? While not one of my absolute favorite racing games, this is still a game absolutely worth picking up. Step behind the wheel and race through the Crossworlds. One of my favorite things to do is my Saturday multiplayer streams. It's something I look forward to every week as it's always a fun time with my friends in my Discord server, and 2025 gave me a big highlight in that regard. Guilty as Suck. I learned about this game from a random YouTube short and it immediately caught my eye. The premise alone is what really sells this game. Everyone takes their own sock puppet and takes up their role in a courtroom. There are lawyers for both the prosecution and defense, a judge to keep things civil and bonk those who misbehave, a witness that helps either side, a journalist to make news headlines about the case in their own way, and a bailiff to punish everyone except the judge. With everyone being a sock puppet and the evidence the lawyers get being absolute random nonsense, this leads to an absolutely hilarious experience. Both lawyers try to make sense out of what they're given to win, and the additional roles really help with the chuckles. And if that wasn't enough, you could even add your own custom cards for even more funny times. This is without a doubt one of the best multiplayer games you can play with your friends. It's simple on the surface, but is guilty of being an absolute blast. For a super long time, games for the GameCube have been a bit of a hot commodity. You'd be hard-pressed to find even a decently popular GameCube game for less than triple-digit prices on the secondary market. As a result, I missed out on playing some games I'm sure I'd love. But when Nintendo revealed that the Switch 2 would have a GameCube service, I was supremely hyped. And one of the games that dropped on day one was something I've wanted to play for years. F-Zero GX. This is likely a game that everyone knows, but not many people got the chance to play, and that's truly a shame. This game is widely regarded as one of the absolute best games on the good old lunchbox, and now it's readily available for the first time since that era. Zipping down these tracks at breakneck speeds is absolutely exhilarating, but it is far from easy. Even on the lowest difficulty, you need to put in your A game to succeed. This is one of the most technically advanced racing games you'll ever play, and I'm glad I invested in the new GameCube controller for this one. And outside of the Grand Prix and multiplayer, there's also a unique story mode. There aren't that many standard races in this one, and these chapters often task you to succeed in missions, such as collecting items, escaping before time runs out, or making it to the end of the highway of death without letting your speed drop. A lot easier said than done, but man, it was a rush! This is not a game you play on a whim. Oh no. This is a game you play knowing what you're getting into. It's tough as nails, and only the skilled will succeed. If you're up to the challenge, then I'll meet you on the racetrack. There are plenty of games where their reputation precedes them. Games where even if you haven't played them, you know a lot about them. And this next one is either famous or infamous depending on who you ask. It's Dark Souls. This game needs absolutely no introduction, as I'm sure everyone here knows about this game. It's the brutally hard game that kicks you in the gut repeatedly and hates you with a burning passion, and you only play if you hate yourself! Except, it's really not. I'm sorry, but those monikers sell this game extraordinarily short. Yeah, it's a hard game, but that's only a small part of the equation. The world of this game is something that truly stands out. Going through what appears to be a desolated kingdom full of decrepit buildings, castles, underground areas, and forests really paints a picture of a world torn apart by ambition and destroyed as a result. Most basic enemies are just reanimated corpses, and you have to wonder what kind of lives they lived before. It's depressing, but it really makes you think about what you're going through. And the gameplay is also something to commend. The game is hard, like I said, but they gave you all the tools you need to succeed. You'll find weapons all over the place, and each weapon type is different with their own pros and cons. There are many ways to build your character to suit your playstyle, and this game has a seemingly endless number of ways to do so. You could be a tank set to win a war of attrition, a magician specializing in one of the magic roots, a brute that decimates everything in one hit, or some combination of multiple traits. This is the kind of game that wants you to succeed. When it knocks you down, it wants you to get up and figure out a method to the madness. And for every brutal problem, there's always a sensible solution. This may not be a game for everyone, but it is an unforgettable experience for anyone. The indie scene is full of creativity, and I played quite a few new ones last year. I already brought a peek, but also tried the likes of Stray and Streets of Rogue. They were certainly contenders that unfortunately just missed the cut. But there's an indie game I played that truly resonated with me. Chained Echoes. On the surface, this is an indie RPG with a pixel art style meant to appeal to fans of old-school RPGs from the SNES era. And while there is definitely some truth to that, there's more to it than that. The story of this game centers around a powerful artifact called the Grimoire, and it is one destructive force. Using it can absolutely decimate an entire 50-mile area in one blast. So the mercenary Glenn, as well as the many fine folk he finds to aid him, are on a quest to stop it. There's plenty more to the story, of course, and all has to do with the characters you meet. Put simply, every character in this game has a story to tell and their own reasons for wanting to be a part of this group. It makes for a party that's dynamic and really intriguing. Of course, this being an RPG, combat is a major focus of the adventure. The combat is pretty basic on the surface, but there's a lot of depth under the hood. For one thing, you don't gain EXP like you normally would, but instead you gain SP, which can be used to upgrade character attacks and traits. And after bosses and major events, you gain Grimoire Shards, which can give party members new attacks and skills, and you're free to choose what to get and when. This means there's a ton of customization in play, doubly so when you have the gems you can add onto equipment into the mix. There's even additional classes you can find and equip onto party members to give them even more to work with. And when you get the Sky Armors, things really get turned up to 11. You can freely customize your 4 mech suits as you see fit, and the battles involving these things are so thrilling. And if you love side stuff like I do, there's a wealth of side quests, additional storylines, and a whole grid of bonus objectives to go for. This is a perfect example of a multi-layered game. The basic idea is as simple as can be, but everything around this game makes it truly greater than the sum of its parts. The accomplishments of this game will echo throughout the rest of my life. I'm usually adverse to including fan projects on lists like this. I certainly enjoy my fair share of ROM hacks and fan games, but a lot of the time they either feel wanting or they have some quirks that bring them down for me, unfortunately. However, in 2025, a fan game came out that stands out for all the right reasons. It's so amazing that I couldn't exclude it from this list. And now I get to talk about Mariomon. Now we've seen Pokemon fan games that are simple sprite swaps, and there is absolutely an audience for that, but the developers behind Mariomon wanted to do so much more. This is a full, 100% authentic Pokemon game in the style of Super Mario Bros. From the very start, you wake up as Mario in your house with Luigi, and you go to see Professor Egad to get your first partner. Instead of Pokeballs, you get caps like Cappy from Odyssey, which is the perfect contextualization for this. And with those, you capture all the enemies the Mario series is known for, as well as some rather deep cuts. Seriously, the people behind this game were not afraid to dig deep for captures to use. Instead of just putting in Blooper for Squirrel, for example, they went the extra mile to make everything unique. Every capture is one of a kind with their own stats, abilities, and learn sets. I can safely say that every capture has a niche they can fill, and none are outright useless. Sure, some might not fit your playstyle, but there's truly an argument to be made for every capture being usable. Add on the great writing, quality of life additions, and abundance of additional content, and you have one of the absolute best Pokemon fan projects ever made. It truly feels on par with official games, and if you haven't tried it yet, then you need to get on that immediately. It is truly a super game for super players. Like I said before, we were absolutely spoiled for racing games in 2025. And man, when the next one was revealed, the internet went absolutely crazy! The sequel from out of nowhere, Kirby Air Riders. Now I do have the original Air Ride, and it is definitely fun. However, outside of City Trial, I felt very little reason to go back to it after a time. But Air Riders set out to fix that by making an even better game. The traditional Air Ride mode is more or less the same, but was tweaked in a bunch of small ways that add up to an overall better experience. For one thing, there are a bunch of characters to choose from, each with their own special moves, so there's way more variety. And when you add in the copy abilities, both new and old, as well as the new courses and machines to ride, this mode is truly refreshing. Top Ride is mostly the same, but it just feels better. Not only the new course is bigger, but the control honestly feels smoother to me. Plus the items you can pick up definitely help a ton. But we all know when going in that City Trial will be the main attraction, and yeah, it certainly is. Going around the city gathering stat-ups, different machines, and potentially legendary machines if you're lucky is such an addictive loop that I could play for hours. It helps that when playing with friends, you're given a choice of different challenges to partake in, so it never gets old. Heck, there's even a vehicle customizer and a store to buy designs from others. It's such a neat addition, even though I'm garbage at actually making stuff. But on top of all this, there's even a dedicated single-player mode in Road Trip. It's sort of like classic mode from 3DS Smash in that you're given choices for different challenges to take on, but there's also a story attached to it. It does a great job contextualizing everything and keeps me engaged the whole time. This right here is one of the most replayable racing games I've ever played. There's always something to do, whether it's something new on Air Ride, going on a road trip, or playing City Trial for the 1000th time with friends. Take to the air and let's see how you ride. The Switch 2 launch was arguably the biggest thing for gaming in 2025. While some stuff about it could have been handled better, I absolutely adore this system. It can not only play old Switch games buttery smooth, but the new games have kept me hyped since day one. And speaking of day one, holy cow, Mario Kart World! Launching the new Nintendo system with a new Mario Kart is basically guaranteeing success, and this did not disappoint. At its core, it is the same fun kart racer we've come to know and love over the past 3 decades. Drive fast, grab items, find shortcuts, screw over your pals, and aim for the finish line. But it's everything around that formula in this game that truly makes it amazing. The big one being that your car can straight up ride on walls and grind on rails. The course design takes full advantage of these new traits and makes it so you gotta get creative to find the fastest routes and also be mindful of being attacked on said routes. This leads to absolutely insane course design that's full of creativity throughout. Sure, it'll take time to learn it all, but once you get the ball rolling, it is amazing. There's also a new type of race where you start at one location and end up at a different one. Sure, you can't do crazy techniques nearly as much, but it does so much to highlight the interconnected world. And speaking of that world, you have the option to freely explore it. It's not only really fun and relaxing to drive everywhere, but there's even stuff to collect. You got question panels that do a great job teaching you about the course layout, Peach medallions, and a bunch of character costumes. You can even play free roam with friends, and it's so much fun! You basically get put in this massive sandbox and you can do whatever you want. It honestly feels like a game within a game. And man, the character roster in this game is truly something else. You got the traditional mainstays, but also various enemies that have never been playable in Mario Kart before. And there's even a cow. Could you ask for anything more? Add on a battle mode that's also super fun, and you not only have a fantastic launch title, but also arguably the best and deepest Mario Kart game ever. The world is your oyster, and nothing is stopping you from racing to your heart's content. Being a Metroid fan is not easy. We often get absolute bangers and then have to wait for a super long time before we get the next one. Having said that, when a new Metroid game drops, it's usually a momentous occasion. And for this one, that is absolutely the case. Metroid Prime 4. We were first teased about this game all the way back in 2017, and we all knew that it was going to be on the Switch. And then after that, we heard absolutely nothing until over 7 years later. When the Switch 2 was being revealed, it was shown that Prime 4 will be on that console as well as the OG Switch. And man, that got every fan of the Space Bounty Hunter mega hyped, myself included. Picking up after the secret ending of Prime 3, the Rogue Hunter Sylex is causing trouble, and after a huge attack, Samus ends up on a new planet and gets a suit that gives her psychic abilities. And this isn't just a glorified power suit either, it gives her all new abilities. You can fire a shot that you can control while your perception of time is slowed, you can grab objects and throw them elsewhere, and there's a suite of extensions to existing abilities like the space jump and the boost ball. All these new and altered abilities give this game a totally unique feel, unlike the other Prime games, and it really helps it stand out. And helping even further are the new tools Samus gets access to. First off are the elemental shots. Samus finds various chips that an ally she meets early on can use to give her new shot types. There's fire, ice, and lightning, and they're kind of a mix of the shot types from Prime 1 and 2. You have limited ammo for them, but they're really strong, especially against specific enemies. Plus, ammo is never scarce, so unlike Prime 2, you can just go hog wild. And then there's Samus's bite. Samus gets a vehicle called the Viola, and holy cow, I love this thing! It not only makes exploring the desert of Soul Valley a thrill, but also opens up new means of combat and exploration within the areas themselves. And tying everything together is a really great story for the game. Most of the time prior, Metroid games emphasize the show don't tell philosophy, but this game tries something different. Samus meets multiple members of the Galactic Federation that are stranded on this planet too, and they all pitch in to help everyone escape. Each of these characters are truly stand out and feel truly alive, which is so great to see. Is this my favorite Prime game? Honestly, not quite. The game is admittedly a bit too long, I feel, and Prime 1 is yet to be matched. Having said that, this is still a worthy successor for the series, and I'm proud to say the wait was totally worth it. When the Switch 2 launched, there was a ton to look forward to. Mario Kart World was just the start, as we had a bunch of new games as well as expansions to old Switch games to enjoy coming up, and a game released shortly after the system's launch that truly made the whole thing worth it. Donkey Kong Bonanza! To say that everyone went bananas at the reveal of this one is a big understatement. Donkey Kong has had his fair share of platformers, but we hadn't seen an original game for the big guy since the Wii U era, so this was a big deal. And not only that, it was a 3D game sporting an entirely new design for DK. And while it was odd at first, I adore this new look for him. He's so much more expressive now, and he feels like he'd be great to hug. Well, enough of that, let's get to the game. It's a normal day for DK and his new mining job. Okay. When suddenly a meteor strikes and there's a cave-in. He meets a talking rock, and then falls down into a whole new world. As it turns out, the underground of this world is full of multiple unique environments, and now DK not only has to help his new friend, who turns out to be a young Pauline, but also stop the evil Void Company from taking over. It's a simple story, but it's hard carried by the characters and the presentation. I mentioned that DK is much more expressive, and that goes for the cast as a whole. Both allies and enemies alike are so memorable, and the way everything looks is astounding. Each layer had its own feel, and always made me wonder just what could be next. And man oh man, exploring these layers is amazing. DK has her standard moveset with a nice jump and a punch, but those are just scratching the surface. Being a miner, he is quite adept at absolutely tearing terrain apart, and that's a big mechanic of this game. Throughout the layers, you can dig around freely to find gold, fossils, and most importantly, vanadium gems. These not only act like power stars, but collecting enough of them also gives DK skill points to give him new abilities or enhance existing ones. Digging around to find everything is such a delight, and I never got sick of it. But there's also something else DK can do. With the power of Pauline singing, DK can use transformations. You start off with a Kong Bonanza, which is basically just DK squared, but the other ones you get are even cooler. There's the super fast zebra, the ostrich which lets you glide, the elephant which lets you suck up everything and really helps with digging, and the snake which lets you jump to great heights. And accompanying each of these transformations is a unique song from Pauline. It was great to see her gradually get over her stage fright, and these songs are such a delight to listen to. This might be one of the best Nintendo games ever released. The entire adventure is so full of fun and character, and I adored every moment of it. Next time I'm bored, I'll just go ape with this one. In 2022, we were graced with Pokemon Legends Arceus. This game strove to give a Pokemon experience that was simultaneously familiar, yet completely new, and it absolutely excelled at that. So you can probably imagine that when we got the reveal of a new Pokemon Legends game, I was super hyped for it. And yeah, Legends ZA absolutely lived up to that hype. This game takes place years after X and Y, and the entire game takes place in the bustling and huge Lumiose City. You're just a tourist, but after some shenanigans involving a special Floette, you're drafted into Team MZ, who seek to bring joy to Lumiose. Things start off pretty basic with you working your way up the ranks of the ZA Battle Royale, but it doesn't take long for a disaster to strike with rogue Mega Evolutions. The story honestly is one of the better ones in this series, and that's in large part because the characters are so likable. Every chapter of the story introduces a new set of characters, and they're all unique and I love them all. Of course, throughout it all, you're exploring Lumiose City. Back in X and Y, this always felt like the best place to explore, as it felt like there was always something new and exciting around the corner. And yeah, this game captures that feeling and amplifies it to the nth degree. I don't know why or how, but the city feels even bigger, and the new developments really add new life to the whole place. There are special wild areas where you can catch Pokemon, and more get added as you rise through the ranks. Catching Pokemon is pretty similar to how Legends Arceus handled things, even down to not having to battle if you sneak up on them. And the selection of Pokemon you can catch is solid, so there's always something to experiment with. But that's just half the equation. When night falls, the battle area is open, and now it's time to brawl. This game took the battle system we all know and love and made it real time. No joke, this feels like anime battles with how you can dodge attacks or set up attacks to catch opponents when their attack whiffs. They're not only super fun, but also allows this game to stand on its own against Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus put its focus in exploration and research, while this game focuses hard on the battles. Depending on who you ask, there are valid reasons to prefer one or the other, and I love to see that. While it couldn't take the top spot, there's no denying that this game is absolutely legendary. And before going on to number 1, I got some honorable mentions. Devil May Cry 3, one of the most stylish and action-packed games I've ever played. Streets of Rogue, an intriguing roguelike that does things differently in a great way. Wario Land 4, a good 2D platformer but needed more meat on its bones. And Stray. As a cat person, I adore this and it's such a well done game. I'll be honest, this one actually surprised me. When I was going over the candidates for this list and trying to order them, I was stumped for a while on what would be number 1. Bonanza and ZA were absolutely strong contenders, so this wasn't easy. But when I stopped and took a breath, I realized that this last game is truly special, and I'm pretty sure not many of you are familiar with it. But I'm about to change that. Number 1 is the Caligula Effect 2. This was a random holiday gift from a friend at the end of 2024, and like all such gifts, it was filed away for next year because I love making these kinds of videos. But when it came time to play it, it blew all my expectations into deep space. It's a normal day at this normal high school for this normal protagonist, until it isn't. Out of the blue, this mysterious voice starts talking to you and lets you know that this world is actually a virtual one. And as if they see you as a non-believer, a bunch of faceless students corner you and suddenly you can fight. Yeah, that's the basic premise, and it's as wild as it is ingenious. The major characters you meet in this virtual world are trapped in here just like you, and all of them want to help you find a way out. The way the story develops is so enthralling, as after each major story beat, you just wonder what's going to happen next and how the characters will develop. Speaking of which, I absolutely adore the cast in this game. They all feel genuinely human, and a big part of that is because each of them, let's just say, carries emotional baggage. Throughout the game, you can bond with these characters and have sessions like social links to get to know everyone better. All of your party members have so many layers to them and different reasons for wanting to fight. It's such an amazing lineup and I love them all. Nico is the best though. I adore that cinnamon roll so much. But that's just the narrative. How is the gameplay? Well, as a main hub you get to explore, including a school and a mall, and you can take a bunch of side quests to help you prepare for the dungeon crawling. These dungeons make use of seemingly benign locations in such clever ways and makes each chapter very memorable. And that goes double for when it's time to fight. This combat system is very unique. At the start, you choose what actions everyone active in the battle will do, and they're placed on this sort of timeline. Different attacks have different windups and points where the attack executes. What's also really cool is they can actually see how the enemies will act thanks to this timeline. This makes battles into this real mind game of how you can thwart the enemies with your moves while denying theirs. And since each ally you get has a different style with a different weapon, there's loads of combos for pretty much every scenario. And man, when you master this system, it becomes one of the greatest combat systems I've ever seen in an RPG. Learning how to cancel attacks with others, how to use movement and blocks to line up attacks just right, and being able to juggle enemies you launch airborne is such a satisfying feeling. I'm terrible at this kind of thing in fighting games, but I can do it well here. And the boss fights really test you on this mastery. You have to be ready and constantly thinking because they can surprise you if you're not careful, and these fights are just a blast. From a game out of nowhere to probably a top 5 RPG contender for me, I could say with confidence that the Caligula Effect 2 is my favorite game I played in 2025, and I hope I encouraged you to give it a go. I'm Arrow Dragon, and I'm hoping for a joyous 2026. And that's a wrap for my first project of 2026. I'm really sorry this ended up taking so long, but 2026 was really kicking my butt at the start, and it ended up delaying this a lot. That said, I'm not sure what I'll do next, so feel free to suggest something here or in my Discord. Until next time, this is Arrow Dragon, signing off.